Pathetic. All right, my friend Deborah Burlingame sent me a letter she received from a gentleman whose son, Eddie, is serving in Iraq. He's 22 years old. I want you to hear part of this letter, folks, because this 22-year-old speaks in a way far more mature than his 22 years. Call him Eddie. Says, I stare out into the darkness from my post and I watch the city burn to the ground. I smell the familiar smells. I walk through the familiar rubble, and I look at the frightened faces that watch me pass down the streets of their neighborhoods. My nerves hardly rest. My hands are steady on a device that has been given to me from my government for the purpose of taking the lives of others. I sweat and I'm tired. My back aches from the loads I carry. Young American boys look to me to direct them in a manner that will someday allow them to see their families again. And yet I, too, am just a boy, my age not but a few years more than those I lead. I am stressed, I am scared, and I'm paranoid, because death is everywhere. It waits for me, it calls to me from around streets, corners, and windows, and it's always there. There are the demons that follow me and tempt me into thoughts and actions that are not my own, but are necessary for survival. I've made compromises with my humanity, and I'm not alone in this. Miles from me are my brethren in this world, who walk in the same streets, who feel the same things, whether they admit to it or not. And to think I volunteered for this, and I am ignorant to the rest of the world, or so I thought. But even thousands of miles away in Ramadi, Iraq, the cries and screams of complaints of the ungrateful reach me. In a year I will be thrust back into a society from a life and mentality that doesn't fit for your average man, and then I will be alone, and then I will walk down the streets of America and see the yellow ribbon stickers on the cars of the same people who compare our president to Adolf Hitler. I will watch the television and watch Cindy Sheehan's and the Al Frankens and the rest of the ignorant sheep of America spat off their mouths about a subject they know nothing of. It is their right, and it is their right that is defended by hundreds of thousands of boys and girls scattered across the world from far from home. I use the words boys and girls because that's what they are. In the Army, the average age of the infantrymen is 19 years old. The average rank of soldiers killed in action is private first class. People like Cindy Sheehan are ignorant, not just to this war, but to the results of their idiotic ramblings, or at least I hope they are. They don't realize its effects on this war. In this war, there are no Geneva Conventions, no ceasefires. Medics and chaplains are not spared from the enemy's brutality because it's against the rules. I can only imagine the horrors a military chaplain would experience at the hands of the enemy. The enemy slinks in the shadows and fights a coward's war against us. It is effective, though, as many men and women have died since the start of this war, and the memory of their service to America is tainted by the inconsiderate remarks on our nation's news outlets. And every day the enemy changes. Only now the enemy is becoming something new. The enemy is transitioning from the Muslim extremists to Americans. The enemy is becoming the very people whom we defend with our lives, and they do not realize it. But in denouncing our actions, denouncing our leaders, denouncing the war we live and fight, they are isolating the military from society, and they are becoming our enemy. Democrats and peace activists like to toss the word quagmire around and compare this war to Vietnam. In a way, they're right. This war is becoming like Vietnam. Not the actual war, but in the isolation of the country from the military. America's not a nation of war. We are a nation at war with its military. Like it or not, we are here. Some of us for our second or third times, some even for their fourth or so on. Americans are so concerned now with politics that it's interfering with the war. Terrorists cut the heads off of American citizens on the Internet. There's no outrage. But an American soldier kills an Iraqi in the midst of battle, and there are investigations. And sometimes soldiers are even jailed for doing their job. It's absolutely sickening to me to think our country has come to this. Why are we so obsessed with the bad news? When will people stop at nothing to be against this war, no matter how much evidence of good we've done is thrown in their face? When is the last time CNN or MSNBC or CBS reported the opening of schools and hospitals in Iraq, or the leaders of terror cells being detained or killed? It's all happening, but people won't let up their hatred of Bush. They will ignore the good news because it just might show people that Bush was right. America has lost its will to fight. It has lost its will to defend what is right and just in the world. Now, the crazy thing of it is that the American people have not even been asked to sacrifice a single thing. It's not like World War II, where people rationed food and turned in cars to be made into metal for tanks. The American people have been not asked to sacrifice anything. Unless you're in the military, the family of a member in the military, it's life as usual. The war doesn't even affect you. He said, we are the hope of the Iraqi people. They want what everyone else wants in life, safety, security, somewhere to call home. They want a country that is safe to raise their children, not a place where their children will be abducted, raped, murdered if they don't comply with the terrorist demands. They want to live, rebuild, and prosper, and America has given them the opportunity, but only if we stay true to the cause and see it through to the end. But the country must unite in this endeavor, America. We cannot place the burden on our military alone. We must all stand up and fight, whether in uniform or not. And supporting us is more than sticking yellow ribbon stickers on your cars. It's supporting the commander-in-chief, our troops, and our cause. Right now, he says, the burden is all on the American soldiers. Right now, hope rides alone. But it can change. It must change. Because there's only failure and darkness ahead for us as a country, as a people, if it doesn't. Let's stop all the political nonsense. Let's stop all the bickering. Let's stop all the bad news, and let's stand and fight. Isn't that what America is about anyway? This is Eddie, 22-year-old soldier in Iraq, writing to his father. And he's right. There are two Americas, really, aren't there? Not when John Edwards would have you believe, but the brave men and women in the military and those who support them, their families and friends, and the American citizen who roots for them and wants them to win. And the other part of America, as represented by the modern Democrat Party, as represented by this debate last night, where the way to win this war, they say, is to take Bush out. Where the way to defend this nation is to take Bush out. Absolutely zero plan militarily for dealing with an enemy that only understands military behavior. Talk about diplomacy and politics and dealing with these people. It's so naive as to be stunning. Absolutely stunning. This young man, Eddie, he speaks for tens of thousands who are serving in the theater. Tens of thousands. He's facing down that enemy and writing about his real concern, which are the liberals here at home. The liberals here at home. Mark, why do you always support George Bush? I don't always support George Bush. I mean, my God, my wife and I don't always agree. My kids and I don't always agree. My parents and I don't always agree. That is a non-issue. We stand up against those who seek to kneecap the American GI. You heard them last night, and if you didn't, you heard them on this show, in the various audio clips. People who are out of their minds and obsessed with power, who are out of their minds and obsessed with losing this war so they can pin the scarlet letter of loss on George Bush's head. That's what they're about. Gaining seats in the House and the Senate, while we have a young man like this, 22 years old, going in the shadows of Baghdad, Ramadi, wherever, trying to hunt down somebody and take them out before they reach the shores of the United States and take out some of us. That's the truth. I read these letters almost every night, and I do it for a reason. Somebody needs to speak for these men and women. Somebody needs to give their letters voice in this country. Somebody needs to focus on what they have to say. The media isn't going to do it. These politicians aren't going to do it. So we have to do it.